Are you struggling to come up with original content week in and week out? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients, let them talk about what they care about most, and never run out of content ideas again. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Hello, and welcome to the B2B Growth Show Monthly Book Talk. I'm Douglas Burdett, host of the Marketing Book Podcast, where each week I publish an interview with the author of a new marketing or sales book to help my listeners succeed in the quickly changing world of marketing and sales. Joining me is my friend James Muir, author of The Perfect Close, The Secret to Closing Sales, the Best-Selling Practices and Techniques for Closing the Deal. I read every book featured on the Marketing Book Podcast, but James reads even more books than I do. And he listens to every episode of the Marketing Book Podcast. So I'm delighted that he can join me. In this monthly episode of the B2B Growth Show, we briefly recap some of the key ideas from the marketing and sales books that were recently featured on the Marketing Book Podcast. James, welcome to the B2B Growth Show Book Talk.
Thank you, Douglas. In this episode, we're going to talk about 4 recent books featured on the Marketing Book Podcast, which are Nincompoopery, my favorite title ever.
Yes.
Why Your Customers Hate You and How to Fix It by John Brandt. Rehumanize Your Business, How Personal Videos Accelerate Sales and Improve Customer Experience by Ethan Butte. Flip the Script, Getting People to Think That Your Idea is Their Idea by Oren Klaff. And Growth IQ, Get Smarter About the Choices That Will Make or Break Your Business by Tiffany Bova. So let's get it on. First up, we've got Nincompoopery, Why Your Customers Hate You and How to Fix It by John Brandt. And, it is a rare book that can deliver valuable insight that's relatable and keep your interest while also making you laugh. And this book does that. So tell us a little bit about John Brandt's Nincompoopery.
It's a wonderfully entertaining book, brilliantly written, and once again, ex-journalists write some of the best books. And he was at Industry Week and a number of other places. So what he talks about is nincompoopery, and it doesn't mean that employees of companies are nincompoops, but he talks about this sort of stupid behavior that personifies itself because bad decisions are made. And he talks in the book about how for success in business or for businesses, and this is based on a lot of research that his company did, is basically a 3-legged stool of innovation, talent, and process. So in other words, there's lots of things you could be focusing on, and many companies do, and many people and executives are distracted by all the noise. But innovation, the talent you have working for you, and the processes in your business. And the innovation is something that, of course, a lot of manufacturers talk about and is a buzzword that everyone loves. But he explains that too many companies think of innovation as hitting some grand slam. Sorry to use an American baseball analogy. I know all the folks overseas don't understand that, but they think about they've got to have this one breakthrough product, and that's really going to make it all happen. And he explains that rarely works that way. Most new products don't work, and most new products are not sufficiently marketed and supported with sales effort. And he explains that for innovation, the greatest innovation usually has to do with where's the frustration in your customer's life. How can you make that easier?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest insights I got from this book is the importance of viewing things from the most important perspective, which is the customers and the employees' perspective.
Yes, yes. And so in terms of talent, intellectual capital that you have at your company, and that's the thing that the most successful companies are doing is they are making sure that they are hiring the right kinds of people for their organization, and then training them and inspiring them, basically engaging their minds, and also appreciating that in this labor market, they could leave. So you have to do more than just give them a paycheck. There's other things you need to do to nurture your talent. And now I know all the human resources executives listening to this will already know that. They're already saying, duh, yeah, of course you have to do that. But he explains that a lot of companies really get that wrong and are missing the boat. Maybe it's a generational thing where they may be thinking, oh, they're happy to have a job, but the most successful companies are really focused on improving and cultivating the talent of their workforce.
And a lot of good examples in the book.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The last thing that he talks about is process, and he says that's sort of like the broccoli of business, where people don't want to focus on their processes, but the most successful companies, they are process oriented, and they create a process and they continuously refine the process. And they are very much engaged with getting their people closest to the process to update and refine the process. So really very refreshing book, a lot of fun to interview him. Really, really very well done.
Yeah, he does a great job of sort of irreverently pointing out all the absurdity that is just so common in business today. One of my favorites was that customer-free zones.
Oh, yes. A customer-free zone, where he explains that everyone at your company should be somehow connected to customers, or help them understand that they are connected with customers. And actually, the most successful companies are making sure that their employees are observant of what their customers are doing and are involved in their customers' lives, and basically doing everything they can to help those customers get those employees to get deeper insights into their customer, because a lot of the great innovative ideas come from throughout the organization. And he refers to a lot of companies that have customer-free zones where I don't deal with customers. No, that's not my problem. And that's like, for example, in maybe billing. They think, I don't deal with customers. Yes, you do. And the result of what you do in billing has a big impact on that customer's experience with your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very entertaining and humorous book. Of course, you can glean that from the title. And yet it's just packing a ton of insight. So any last thoughts, favorite aspects, or takeaways?
I'd love to see him talk. I think that, writing is hard. Humor is even harder.
Yeah.
And this was a very entertaining book. And I've heard from listeners who've read it who really got a lot out of it.
Yep, I was one of them. All right. Well, next up, we've got Rehumanize Your Business, How Personal Videos Accelerate Sales and Improve Customer Experience by Ethan Butte. And face-to-face is where it's at, and video is a great way to accomplish that. This book covers that and more. So tell us a little bit about Rehumanize Your Business.
So the listener's probably wondering, what's a personal video? Well, it's not a video of the boss standing there in front of a screen, a camera reading a teleprompter. A personal video is where you've got a camera on your computer and you can record a quick video to somebody and then attach it to an email. And the authors, Ethan Butte and Stephen Pacinelli, they are with a company called BombBomb, which is a marketing and sales platform, email platform where you can attach videos and send them to people. But they're really clear that you don't have to use their product, although you can get a free trial of it. You don't have to use their product to do what's in their book. I don't use their product and I send personal videos. But they talk about how personal videos have enormous impact. And there's some studies they've done of how much greater the open rates are on a video that has, on an email that has a video. The response rate is greater. And it's because of its ability to connect with our caveman brain. You see that video and it's human. And they talk about how you should just send that first video, no do-overs. And by the time you get to the 10th video that you're sending somebody, you're a whole lot better. And then by the time you send 100, you're really good at it. And if you're flawed, if you make mistakes, it's even better because you seem more human. But they also go into the book about how emails you're never getting rid of email. It's a great app. It's the killer app. But the people actually are spending more time typing out their emails and sending them than they would to do a video. And a lot of what they're typing out is either not read or is misunderstood, and you don't understand any of the other context behind it. And I had sent some personal videos, and after reading the book, I've been sending a whole lot more, even just to, as they say, believe it or not, it's actually faster just to record a quick video and send it to somebody, and they get what you're trying to say.
Agreed. And it creates a much better relationship, right? And relationships is the whole point. Anything less than that, we're leaving something on the table. And so I think personal video, well, maybe not as good as an in-person meeting, allows us to create better relationships than any other channel that are, at our disposal. And it lets you scale up because you don't have to leave. You can just do it on your video, and you can still remain personal while you're doing it.
Yes, and you shouldn't go buy a bunch of equipment to get started with this.
He said that.
Most everybody already has on their computer what they need. And
or
your phone. Yeah, you can send it on your phone, or you've got most of us, I've got an iMac here. It's got a camera on there, and people can hear. There's a microphone on the computer. It's all there. Just try sending it. Send one to your spouse or your kids or something. I'm glad I read it, and it reminded me of the power of sending those videos. And also, when you send one of those, you also know that people are going to appreciate it more.
It stands out. And that's part of the data that they've got in terms of the openership and how much of the message gets through to the actual person. So Rehumanize Your Business makes it just an airtight case for why using personal video is critical for everybody. It's very practical, very step-by-step, very hands-on. I loved it. What do you like best about Rehumanize Your Business?
Oh, probably that it reminded me that I should be doing it. And the secret to get, I had been doing some of them, but the secret to getting ahead is getting started. And sure enough, by the 10th one I did and sent, because I'm using them for prospecting. I'm reaching out to, companies and organizations to introduce myself and see if we might be able to help them. And this seems to work well. So,
yep. Well, like Nike says, you just do it, right? That's kind of their message.
Just get started on it and start sending some of those videos. It's actually faster and it's more effective. So I don't know. And again, doggone it, they had all that science behind, and data behind all the information they had there. So.
Well, great book. Next up, we've got Flip the Script, Getting People to Think That Your Idea is Their Idea by Oren Klaff. And holy smokes, I read this book in one day. It was like,
oh, really?
Yeah, it was like pure entertainment with just a few brilliant insights weaved into these amazing stories that are in the book. So tell us a little bit about Flip the Script.
Well, so Oren Klaff wrote the bestseller Pitch Anything, which I believe has sold over 1 million copies. Mm-hmm. And that was about 2011, I think he wrote that. So Flip the Script, what he does in the book, it's an exciting book to read, which is why you probably read it in one day. What he does is he takes you around the world on these really interesting stories, and each story he tells, he says that they're real stories, but he changed the names of the companies and he's been involved in it. They're exciting. They're an exciting read. And each one of them has an element of the different ways that you can flip the script and get somebody to think their idea is yours. And then he ties it all together at the very end. Now, the stories were, I shouldn't say this, they're almost too compelling because I got so into the stories.
Me too.
I was worried that I was missing what is there some point he's making here about that I'm going to be tested on? But he buried them in there really well.
The story and pull out the insights into each one. He ties it up at the end.
Yeah. So it was really exciting, very entertaining, and just to make sure that we're providing some value here instead of saying, it was a good bunch of great stories. let me mention a couple of things that he talked about where in selling now, as James Muir would know, the way people buy has changed and the expectations people have for the control that they want. And that's why it's such an interesting idea about how you really do need to make sure that they feel like it's their idea. And there's ways to do it, ethically without, deceiving people. But a couple of things that, and also as I read through it, as he talked about some of these things, I realized, oh yeah, I've been burned by that before. I've had that problem. Like one of them was called dominance hierarchy or status alignment, where you are not helping yourself by taking a supplicant role in the buyer-seller situation.
Right.
So, that's where your expertise comes in. What did you think about that? I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You start to come off as begging if you don't stand your ground.
And that's a major theme in Pitch Anything as well. But he kind of covers it here and then adds some concepts to that. Something called status alignment, and then a status tip-off, which is a technique where you, with your dialogue, you let them know that you're on the same level as them and that you're not a subservient level. And
yes. And that's where he said, don't try and be... You should never try and BS someone. But he even gave an example of that in the interview I did with him where we started talking about motorcycles. And he asked me about what kind of motorcycle I have. And I told him. And then he started using the wrong number. He got a very minor detail wrong. And then afterwards he said, now, what did you think when I said that? I said, I think you didn't know what you were talking about, but you were trying to act like you did. He said, that's exactly what it is, where you clearly have to show that you know the inside baseball term and have the expertise when you're talking to these folks.
And a key mistake that people make is that they use the wrong level of rapport, a ridiculously simple level of rapport, and they think that that's improving their status with the client, and it doesn't work, right? Yes. Oh, wait, you live in Florida? I've been to Florida before. That is a lame level of rapport.
Yeah. You're from Jersey? I'm from Jersey, right?
Amazing, right? Yeah. So you've got some other concepts in there. The certainty flash roll, which is, again, another set of dialogue to let them know right away that you know exactly what you're talking about and you're completely qualified.
And you've dealt with this problem that they have before.
Exactly. So well that they don't want to shake you down about it. And so that's a very key thing to set because it speeds up the entire process and lets them move on to the other parts of the sort of presentation or the conversation.
Yeah. And he's got this, at one point in the book, he reminds you under the part about a pre-wired idea.
Right.
You have to remind them, keep in mind, they are asking themselves, why do I care? What's in it for me? And why you? And too often in a presentation or a sales situation, that's not at the forefront of the presenter or the seller's mind. And another idea is this concept he has of, which is one of many, was winter is coming. In other words, you have got to help them understand that there is a big problem. They're standing on an anthill and they don't know it. Winter is coming. Mm-hmm. There is something that you have expertise about that you need to help them understand that this is a ticking time bomb. And this, of course, comes up in Eat Their Lunch by Anthony Iannarino. Sorry to go off script and talk about a book from a while back, but you know him well, where he says, you don't call up a company and say, I'd like to talk to you, find out about your business, so see if you have any problems. No. You come to them now and say, based on my experience with similar companies like yours, these are the 4 things you should be concerned about for the next 18 months.
Right? That's winter.
Yeah, that's winter is coming. You didn't know that, did you? Right. So that's...
Yeah, he calls these idea receptors, where you're already pre-wired to accept certain ideas. And the idea that winter is coming is one of those. The other one was 2x, the amount of value. And then skin in the game was another concept that he added in there, which is they need to know you're all in.
Yes.
You're gonna go until it's done, not until you're tired. You're gonna go until it's done. And that's an important concept, he says, as part of the message that you're supposed to be delivering.
Yeah. 2 other things from the book that were interesting was, one is he talks about leveraging pessimism. And you need to go negative. He talks about how salespeople, they're so optimistic. Whereas you've got to say, look, there's some downsides here. And you've got to help them understand that, see, they're already thinking pessimistically. What you're trying to do is show them the 4 corners of the pessimism room.
Right. And do it preemptively.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
You're not going to wait for them to bring it up. You're going to bring it up.
Yeah. And also he talks about how you got to teach them how to buy whatever you're selling. They don't know how to buy what you're selling. And they always seem to appreciate that.
Agreed. Well, this is, I enjoyed the book just because the stories were so engaging, and then weaved inside those little stories were these little points. And I did have to have a pencil to pull those out. And he did cover them at the end, but I really enjoyed the book. What was your favorite part of Flip the Script?
Well, it was like eating food that's really good for you, but it tastes even better than it is good for you. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, that can't be good for me. So it was very entertaining, and it was had some things that had me think differently from some of the other books that I've read about sales.
Truly, there was some paradigm shifting things in there. All right. Well, last up, we've got Growth IQ, Getting Smarter About the Choices That Will Make or Break Our Business by Tiffany Bova. And this book is organized and written in a way that talks about some big and difficult challenges for companies, but has a conversation about that in a very simple way, which I liked. So tell us a little bit about Growth IQ.
So this book, it covers the 10 ways that companies can grow. So, and some of them are not new, but she updates them and she's added a few extra ones. But she said basically in this new age, there's really 10 ways that companies can grow. And they can do a combination of a few of them. Of course, they have to do them at the right time, and some of them don't work. But the reason I was so interested in having this book on the Marketing Book podcast is because there are a lot of CEOs who are, I know this because I worked at this kind of company once, slamming their fists on the conference room table saying, go make more money. go grow the business. Go make more cold calls. Go do more ads, And this is where a salesperson or a marketing person could quietly guide their company towards one or more of these 10 ways to grow. In other words, it's like saying, go make it rain. Well, okay, there's a few things that you have to do from a strategic standpoint. And so let me just mention the real quickly what the 10 growth paths are for the listener. One of them is customer experience. Basically, give your customers a better experience, which then makes them buy more and actually advocate for you. And every chapter in the book or every section of the book, she's got an example of companies that did it well and companies that did it badly. And some of the ones that did it badly are those darlings of marketing books like Starbucks or Amazon.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, they've screwed up some certain things, and so it's very credible. The second one is selling more existing products to existing customers. I mean, you already know these people, just sell more to them. Third is expand into new markets with the products you already have. So you can see how that's a little more difficult than the second one I mentioned. The fourth one is sell new products to existing markets. And the fifth one is sell new products to new customers, which is really difficult. It's generally riskier, but it's done. It's done. The sixth one is the one that I'm sure James Muir liked, and I secretly was my favorite.
It was my favorite.
It was called Optimize Sales, Streamline Sales Efforts to Increase Productivity. My goodness. In that section, the inefficiency of certain sales processes at companies, if it were in any other aspect of the business, the CEO and whoever's responsible for that department would have been fired long ago. And Tiffany has a real expertise in optimizing sales. And that's just an enormous opportunity for so many companies. The seventh one is minimize defection, reducing your churn, basically retain more customers. And James Muir, do you see how that might actually be connected to the first one, which was improving your customer experience?
Yeah. That's why we have sequences that she offers.
Yes. And so reducing your churn, there's some companies that are all about chasing after the new customer. Yeah, don't worry about the existing ones. They have very leaky buckets. And from a revenue speed and a revenue increase standpoint, if you could just keep the customers you have and sell more to them, it does more than generating additional net new customers, although you should try and do that as well. Eighth was partnerships, which is third-party alliances, channels, ecosystems. You're starting to see a lot more of that. It makes a lot more sense. There's a lot of expertise you have there. Co-opetition, that's where you cooperate with what traditionally would have been a competitor. But the truth is that within this world of specialization, there may not be any overlap at all. And it makes all kinds of sense to cooperate with what you may have thought of as a competitor. And the last one is called unconventional strategies, which was like purpose-driven businesses, where it's achieving a higher good or some sort of social benefit. Like I'll give you an example, like Tom's Shoes.
Exactly.
Or I guess Warby Parker or some of the others, where you buy something and then a lot of their profits go into some mission that they have.
Yeah, and I think at the beginning she says there's no silver bullet, and that the right growth path is actually contextual, right?
Yes,
and it depends on the circumstances and the events for the organization. That that's what determines which of these strategies is going to be most appropriate for each organization. So it's not like number 5 and number 8 are the best for everyone. It depends on the organization.
Right. And again, like I said before, you have to get it at the right time. But in the interview, back to my CEO slamming their fist on the conference room table, she said, in the past, companies would say, oh, we got to grow. All right, hire more salespeople, do more marketing, cut prices.
Right.
Not necessarily, So all 3 of those might not actually work. You could be pursuing these other things which generate proven growth.
I do get a sense that her favorite of all the strategies of competitive differentiation is customer experience. I think that's probably why she included it as number 1. That's just my sense.
Well, no, it's true, James. And that was one of the big threads of the book, is that through almost every one of those 10 sections, the ones that succeed at whatever path they take are the ones that had the deepest understanding of their customers.
Agreed.
Again and again, she explained, just like back to nincompoopery, where if you just understand your customers and find the friction in their life, you're going to be that much closer to being more successful and definitely more competitive. So yeah, that probably was my biggest takeaway, where she explains that, getting close to your customers, really understanding them, you're just going to be more successful. Then you still have to pick what makes sense for your business. But she gave example after example where companies had, I'm almost embarrassed to say, no clue about their customers.
Yeah. In fact, I think for the listener, it's good that they know that this book is replete with examples. There's never a comment or a statement or a strategy that's not backed up with multiple examples. And then every chapter actually starts with a bunch of metrics that explains why that particular strategy is important. And so that's very valuable. I'm being a numbers guy. I really enjoyed that piece of it.
Me too. There's a reason it's a Wall Street Journal bestseller.
Yeah, no doubt. It's an awesome book. And my favorite, obviously, was the sales part about optimizing sales efficiency. Oh. And there's a couple of metrics in there that are just mind-blowing. And they've been around for years, so it's not like it's the first time it's been published. But when you think about it, it's just a mind-blowing stat that 66% of all sales professionals' time is wasted on non-selling activities, and then only about half salespeople ever hit quota. And so if you were just to get your middle performers operating 2 to 3% better, that's going to make a huge difference. And so what optimizing is, it mostly boils down to just maximizing individual contributors' time with customers, right? And if you think about that, just reducing non-selling time by maybe 50%, that's the equivalent of doubling your sales force if they're really spending 66% of their time on non-selling activities. Right. So and yet we see just ridiculous administrative burdens put on salespeople and sales professionals all across the board. It's a tragedy.
Yes, and you know what else that reminds me of? A book called Nincompoopery, where he talked about process. Just keep following that process, and it starts to get better and better. And in the interview with Tiffany, she talked about how we're not talking about the top performing salespeople here. We're not talking about the James Muirs of your sales force. Okay. These are the ones sort of in the middle where if they just get a little bit better, dramatic increase.
Exactly. Well, there's so much. This is a good sized book, and there is a lot of excellent insights in this book. Your favorite parts and takeaways from this one?
Well, like I said, the sales optimization, but also the part about the customer experience and engineering the experience that the customers have, and the fact that what it takes to succeed at customer experience is going to make you successful in the other 9 different routes to growth.
Yep, agreed. Well, I got to say, this is a smoking collection of books that we had this time. So tell us a little bit about what's coming up next on the Marketing Book Podcast.
So next time, we are going to talk about The Science of Customer Connections, Manage Your Message to Grow Your Business by Jim Carr. The Innovation Mandate, The Growth Secrets of the Best Organizations in the World by Nicholas Webb. Indistractable, How to Control Your Attention and Choose Your Life by Nir Eyal. Marketing to the Entitled Consumer, How to Turn Unreasonable Expectations into Lasting Relationships by Nick Worth, Dave Franklin, and Josh Burnoff. And finally, The Invisible Brand, Marketing in the Age of Automation, Big Data, and Machine Learning by William Ammerman. And that's it for this month's B2B Growth Show Book Talk. To learn more about the Marketing Book Podcast, visit marketingbookpodcast.com. And to learn more about James and his excellent book, The Perfect Close, visit puremuir.com. That's spelled PUREMUIR.com. And if either of us can recommend a specific sales or marketing book or other resource for whatever situation you find yourself in, connect with us on LinkedIn where we can chat, and we will do our level-headed best to get you pointed in the right direction and maybe save you some time. And remember, keep learning, because these days, the big learners are the big earners.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.